Hi, everybody, and good afternoon. Welcome to our week number 3 live stream for my research methods class. I see several of you in here with me, which is fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with me live on a Wednesday, the last Wednesday of January. I cannot believe that next week is February already and that we're in week number 3. It is just flying by. But thank you for being here. Can you all hear me and see me okay? I just want to make sure that you can all hear and see me just fine before we get going. Oh, thank you, Susanna. Yes, doing pretty good, hanging in there. Not too bad for a Wednesday, right? Did any of you feel the earthquake this morning? I slept right through it. My kids had their first softball practice last night, and I was out there helping out on the field, and I was tired. Apparently, I just slept completely through it. I didn't feel anything. But apparently there was a 4.2 earthquake out of Malibu. I know some of my students here felt it. Look at all you were sleeping too. Yeah, I noticed nothing. My partner was like, I felt it. I felt everything move. Yep, not me. I was dreaming about cake or something. I was completely out. Yeah, I didn't feel it at all. So take care of yourselves and stay safe. Obviously, you never know if there's aftershocks or anything like that. Make sure you get under something and hold on, right? But hopefully we'll all be fine, and it was nothing big, right? A great dream. Yeah, dreaming about cake is fantastic, right? Like I could dream about that every night. All right. Well, good. Well, I'm glad that a lot of you didn't wake you up. That's always nice. My kids were so scared this morning. We let them watch the movie San Andreas like a few weeks ago, and they were like, "What's gonna happen? Is it gonna be like that?" I'm like, I sure hope not. So maybe not the best in retrospect to let them watch that when we live in California. But anyway, I'll focus back in here. We are in, as I said, week number 3, and I'm really glad to have so many of you on here with me live. Thank you. It's a nice chance to interact with all of you. I want to take a little bit of time and give you some feedback about last week. So we'll talk a little bit about some feedback on our science versus pseudoscience kind of discussion that we had for last week. Some reminders for this week. We have a couple of things that are different this week. We have our first homework assignment and a little checking in survey. So I want to make sure to go over those so you're feeling good about it. I do, of course, have your Twitch extra credit question that I will give you toward the end and remind you where you can answer that and all that kind of stuff. And then I will end, as always, by seeing if you have any questions for me and hanging out for a little bit to do that. Of course, you can ask me at any point during our stream by just go ahead and put that in the chat, and I will be happy to answer it. So let's head over to Canvas together and take a look. So as of Monday morning, we are in week number 3. Again, it feels like it's going so fast. We're at the end of January here. But I want to talk just a tiny bit about week number 2. As always, give you a little bit of feedback just so you can kind of know where you fell. And I will always be grading the discussions and content typically on a Monday evening, and then I will send you an email with some feedback. But just to highlight a few things, the discussion for last week, if we click on discussion number 2, we were looking at really focusing on science versus pseudoscience and the demarcation problem and some of the things that happen when we classify things as science versus pseudoscience. And overall, really nicely done. Made me happy to see, you were able to identify those key differences, looking at some of the problems that come out of that. The biggest thing that I saw where people lost points, 2 things really. One was not replying to a classmate. So remember that with every discussion, you're answering my questions and then also replying to a classmate. So let's see here, like Julia replied to my questions and then several people replied to her. Or Manpreet and then several people replied, right? So make sure that you're always not only answering my questions, but read through like 5 or so of your classmates' responses and then reply to one of them. And that's going to get you those 2 points. It's a very easy 2 points that you don't want to miss out on, and they will definitely add up. So try and make sure that you're doing that every week. The other thing that I saw was just not quite giving me enough. Some of you, kind of gave me the differences and the problems, but you didn't elaborate or explain. I think that's the other big advantage of looking at least 5 other people's posts. You can get a good idea of kind of what everybody's putting out there. And it's always better to give me too much. I will never take off for you giving me too much. But if you don't give me enough, you do run that risk of losing a few points. So always make sure that you're answering everything fully, completely, and keep up the great work. A lot of you are earning, 14, 15 points on these and doing really, really well. And a lot of you are taking advantage of the extra credit from these live streams, which I think is fantastic. Those points will definitely add up for you, and I'm glad you're taking advantage of it. So what we'll do is we will move on to week number 3 and talk a little bit about the things we have going on. As I said, we have a little bit more going on this week than usual. Our usual stuff plus a few things. So let's get into that. And we're looking at chapter 2, part 2. So I split chapter 2 into 2 pieces because they kind of cover different elements, and I think they're worth looking at separately. So for this week, we are looking at sources of information, looking at where do we find articles about scientific research, how do we read scientific articles, and a few other things. So page 1, again, always going to be objectives and summary. Page 2, a little bit beyond the book. So here I put a little bit about academic versus non-academic sources, a really big, difference to understand. Evaluating websites as sources, some important notes and questions to ask. And then there's also a library session that I have here. And this is going to be really helpful for this discussion, along with some of the assignments that we're getting into. So please take the time to watch this. She goes into, academic versus non-academic sources quite a bit, how to find things in the library. And this is going to be helpful for that first homework assignment that you have due this week, along with the discussion. Everything should connect really nicely this week. And this video from our librarian, Danielle Caprellian, is going to be really helpful for you in putting all that together. So be sure to watch this, pay attention, take notes. Her tips and suggestions will definitely come back. And then on page 3, the final page here, these are the terms that you need to know from chapter 2, part 2 for our first exam, which is coming up. No worries, glad that you are here. Better late than never. Thank you for being here, Amy. These are the things to do. So make sure you read the second half of chapter 2 and then go through my lecture. Really, really important. Again, make sure you're watching this library session video at the bottom of page 2 on the Beyond the Book page. But that's the chapter and the reading for this week and that piece. So read chapter 2, part 2. Right here, chapter 2, part 2, and then watch all the materials. Here's also the lecture video, and this one I kept it kind of short because I did ask you to watch that library video. I didn't want to give you too much. Then we have discussion 3, so our normal, reading plus a discussion. Discussion number 3, we are kind of connecting all the dots, right? So you're going to be looking at doing a little bit of research, right? Choosing a specific search topic, and this is where that video from the librarian is going to be so helpful. So you're going to choose a topic related to psychology, PTSD, depression, EMDR, emotion, personality, anything psychology related. And then you're going to search for that with 3 different platforms. You're going to do like a general Google or Yahoo kind of search. You're going to search with Google Scholar, and then you're going to search with psych articles, which the librarian covers in that video. After you've completed your search, you're going to answer these 4 questions. What was your search topic? And then you're going to reflect on the differences between those different platforms. You're going to get different information depending on where you search. And that's kind of the point of this week, is trying to look at that a little bit more. Number 3, what's the difference between an academic source and a non-academic source? Give me an example of each. And then number 4, describe an advantage and disadvantage of using Wikipedia. So all of this stuff is going to be either in the reading, my lecture to you, the video lecture, and also that video from the librarian. And a couple of things, and then I see I have a question, which I'll get to in a second. Make sure that you answer everything fully. Again, better to always give me too much than not enough. Also, don't forget to read through a minimum of 5 of your classmates' posts and reply to one of them. Altogether, the discussions are worth 15 points. So 13 for your responses to my questions, and then 2 for your peer response. So you want to make sure you're getting all those points every week. Okay, so somebody asked a question for question 3 right here. of the discussion, do you want us to link a specific example, or do you just want us to give a general example? Like the Times article would be non-academic, while an article in the journal, yes. So you don't have to link it. You can just give me an example. And thank you for asking. If you want to link it, that's totally fine. You can show off and do that, and I love it. That's fantastic. Thank you for the extra step. But you can just give me an example. So you're going to describe the difference between academic and non-academic sources. So make sure you define and describe those differences. And then you can just name an example of each, kind of like you just did in your question. Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you for asking. I love it. See, the advantages of getting to interact live. Thank you so much for asking that question. Perfect. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so again, read the chapter, read the lecture, watch the lecture video, and the discussion. Those are our normal kind of elements that we have. But we do have 2 different elements this week. We have our first of 4 homework assignments, which is very much going to connect to the chapter and the discussion and all that we're doing. And then I have a little survey to just check in with you and see how you're doing. So let's look at the homework assignment first, and then we'll look at the survey after. So homework assignment number 1. Now, these homework assignments are worth 25 points, so they're worth more than a discussion. You definitely want to take some time on these. These are meant to help you reinforce the materials that we're learning. This one is really going to kind of build on that psych articles research that you're doing for the discussion. So let's take a look at this. This is worth 25 points. It's due by this Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. And you're going to be uploading it right here. So when you click on this homework assignment, the Start Assignment button is where you're going to submit it. You can upload your document in these formats, so make sure that it's one of these or that you've converted it so that I can actually open and read your document. And here are the instructions. So let's take a look at this. This should be like 1 to 2 pages together, all together, like standard margins, typed, size, 12 font, double space, Times New Roman, kind of standard APA sort of things, which we'll talk more about next week. I want you to label everything to make it easy for me to see. Make it ridiculously simple for me to see your responses. Don't make me search for it. If the more clear you make it, the easier it will be for me to find, and the more likely you are to get full credit. And so here are the things that you're going to do. You're going to go to Psych Articles on the Moorpark College Library website. And this is what that video, again, to mention the video for like the 5th time, is going to be really helpful for you with. And you're going to be picking a topic related to psychology. You can use the same one you used for your discussion. Feel free to double dip on that. If you, looked up EMDR, for example, as part of your discussion, feel free to use that EMDR here, right? You can use both and might even be easier that way. That's totally fine. You're going to locate an empirical article, an APA-style journal article that is going to cover that topic, right? You'll click on PDF full text, and you're going to download and save a copy of that article so that you can upload it with your submission. This is my way of checking your work against the article. It's also a really great thing to know how to be able to do, to download a PDF from the library website. And make sure it's an APA article. It should have an abstract, an introduction, method, results, discussion, and references. It should follow that format. If it doesn't, then it's going to make your ability to do this very difficult. So again, that video from the librarian is going to help. You'll find the article, you'll download the PDF. And in addition to uploading that PDF for me, what you're going to do is give me some information. And what I'm looking for you to be able to do here is to find an article, read it, and identify the different components in it. Now, this is a skill. This takes some practice. APA-style articles can be difficult to read, and they can be a little confusing. So what I want you to start practicing here is identifying the different sections and then also summarizing an article, right? As if somebody asked you, hey, what was that article you read about? If you could summarize it in a couple sentences, that is a wonderful skill to be able to have. So this is what you're submitting. You're submitting the PDF of the article you found, and then you're going to provide me with the title, authors, and publication information. And then you're going to copy and paste the abstract and label it abstract. You're going to copy and paste the first sentence of each section. So you're working on identifying these sections, the introduction, the method, results, discussion, and then you're going to be labeling them appropriately. Then you're going to do a quick read of the article. Don't worry about understanding it completely, but give it like a nice quick read. and you're going to be summarizing that article in a couple of sentences as if you were telling somebody else about it. So this is what it should look like. I gave you a sample submission here just so you can make sure you know what I'm expecting. You'll give me the title. So here's the title, authors, the journal and publication information. And again, label everything. Make it easy for me to see what you're doing. You're going to copy and paste the abstract verbatim. You're not rewriting it. You're just copying it and pasting it. This is the abstract. And then you're going to give me the first sentence of each of these sections. So label introduction, here's the first sentence. Label the method, here's the first sentence. Results, first sentence. Discussion, first sentence. My goal with this is that you're able to identify those sections, and by giving me that first sentence, that's my way of checking. The last thing that you'll do is you'll give me a 1 to 2 sentence summary of the article that you read. If you had to summarize the article in a couple of sentences, what would you say? Right, and so here I wrote, the study was examining stigma towards schizophrenia versus stigma towards diabetes, and researchers found that people reported greater levels of fear and sat farther away from people with schizophrenia over those with diabetes. So I've just given you like a little snapshot of what the article was about. In total, this should be like a page, maybe 2 pages at the most, and following this format. And again, don't forget to also upload that PDF of your article that you selected so I can check everything against it. So when you're ready to do that, you'll hit Start Assignment. That's where you'll submit all that information as a separate document. I don't think it's too bad of an assignment. It's, again, just getting you comfortable with psych articles, getting you comfortable with APA-style articles, and hopefully pulling all those pieces together. Before I move on, because this is worth so many points, I want to make sure you're all feeling good about it. Does anyone have any questions about the homework assignment for now? Anything that you're confused about or need me to say more on? I'll wait a minute or two here just to make sure. Any questions at all? Just wait just a minute just to make sure. We'll go back to our week number 3 folder while we're waiting. One more piece to talk about for week number 3. But otherwise, it's kind of a usual week with the chapter, the discussion, but we're adding the homework assignment. So definitely, if you think of any questions, feel free to put them in here, or you can email me later. The last thing that we have for this week that's required is the survey. And this is something that I would really like you to do as a way to kind of evaluate where you're at so far. It's only 2 questions. It should be really quick. It's anonymous, so feel free to be honest. Please be honest. I'm looking for your honest opinion. If you click Take Survey, are you comfortable with the course so far? Right? If not, give me an explanation of how things could be clarified. And do you have any questions about the readings, the assignments, or structure? It won't hurt my feelings. Please give me any feedback or constructive comments you might have. This is completely anonymous, and it's not worth any points. So it's just my way of checking in with you to make sure that you're feeling good, that everything is clear. And if you're not, that I can address that. Okay. Do we have to mention someone asked, do we have to mention the topic that we researched or just the article we found? So for the homework assignment, just the article. For the discussion, you're focusing on that topic. How do we enter the PDF of the article and our work at the same time? So you can upload more than one file. So if you are submitting the homework, for example, so if you go to Start Assignment, and scroll down, it's going to give you this box, and this is where you can submit. So you can choose a file and see how it says add another file. So you'll have one document that is going to be all of your materials and responses and information, and then you can upload the PDF of the article as a separate file. Okay. I'm glad you asked that, right? That could be a little bit confusing. So don't copy and paste the article in there. Upload it as its own file. Oh, of course, you're welcome. And Danielle does show you in that video as well, the librarian does show you how to find that PDF and download it. So again, for the 47th time, that video should be really helpful for you. Okay. All right, so a couple of reminders for you, and then I'll give you the extra credit question. Our next Twitch live stream will be next Wednesday, which is February 1st, at 12:30 p.m. We will continue to stay with this day and time, unless something comes up, of course. So I hope that I will see a lot of you there. The other thing to remind you, I will remind you every week, if you could just take a moment to double check that you are subscribed. If you haven't figured that out yet, you could still try and figure that out. If it's too much for you, don't worry about it. But it, of course, does make my life easier, and I think there's a lot of benefits to you. So if you could just double check every week. Starting next week, some of you might fall off. Remember that free subscription's only good for a month. So I'll remind you next week again to check, and I'll show you how to renew it if it did fall off. Otherwise, let me give you the extra credit question for this week, which you can answer right here. So let me bring that up so I can give it to you. So this is the extra credit for week number 3. I'm going to put this in the chat. So week number 3, Twitch extra credit. Okay, so I'm copying and pasting it into the chat here. So your question is, what are some of the questions that you should ask about a website before using it as a research resource? What are some of the questions that you should ask about a website before using it as a research resource? And when you're ready to answer that, you'll head over to Canvas. And since we're in week 3, you click on optional Twitch extra credit number 3. Then you're going to click on Start Assignment up here at the top. And all the way down here, it gives you that text box where you can type your response. Okay, and then when you're ready, you hit Submit. And that's going to give you that little confetti burst and butterflies this time. Last time it was a shamrock, so this time butterflies. And I do grade these throughout the week, so if you get this wrong for some reason and you do it early, I will let you know, and you'll have a chance to kind of resubmit it. Also, I just want to, as a quick side note, remind you, make sure that you're always watching the right live stream. Okay, so I do have some live streams that I do for my intro psych class. I post the recording of it right here, so that's an easy way to access it. But always check the title of the stream. Up at the top, it will tell you if it's research methods or intro psych. A couple of you answered the question from my intro psych class. So if it seems wrong and it doesn't make sense, like if I'm asking you about neurons and we're talking about research, just double check that you have the right class. The vast majority of you got this right, but 1 or 2 of you did answer a question from another class, and I always want to make sure that you are set up to be successful. So when we're done today, I will post the recording of this right here, but get going on the materials for this week a little more than usual, right? We have the lecture, the discussion, the homework, the short survey, and then that optional extra credit. Okay? Looks like somebody said you lost me. Is everyone else still with me? It looks like I have like 20 of you in here. Are you still with me out there? I can't see you. I'm going to put in the chat. You can try leaving and coming back in. All right, if you ever, good, everything looks fine on my end. So obviously internet connections vary. If you ever lose me, you can always try logging out and back in. That seems to be the easiest method for fixing it. But it looks like most of you are with me. So that's great. Okay, so I gave you the extra credit question. We've reviewed everything. I'm going to hang out for a little while if you do have any questions for me, but I'm at right about 25 minutes. I try and keep this at about a half hour altogether, just to be mindful of your time. But if you think of anything right now related to the assignment or this week, put it in the chat and I'll answer it. If you think of it later, feel free to email me. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves. I hope you have a wonderful week. I don't know who I guess I'm rooting for Mahomes this weekend. Go Chiefs. Lots of couple of good games, hopefully on tap for this weekend with football. But if you think of anything, I will be here. I'm going to minimize my video just so I'm not staring at myself, but I will still be here. Thank you so much again for all of you who have joined me live. I really love it and appreciate it. And I hope you're all doing okay and hanging in there. All right. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. And I'll hang out for a few minutes if you think of anything that you would like to ask. Thank you as well. Thank you too. And I am still here if you think of anything. I know you can't see me, but I am still here. So feel free to put something in the chat if you think of any questions. Thank you. And you're welcome. See you next week. All right, it looks like almost everybody has logged out, so I'm going to close this up so I can download it and upload it and all that fun stuff. But if you think of anything else between now and next week when I'm on here again, feel free to email me. And again, have a wonderful week.